Well, y'all, so you can kind of see that this definitely isn't the beginning of this Batman repaint. Okay, so first off, apparently I lied in the last video for the Superman video. I said we were skipping something to Batman. I did repaint something else, another figure, but I accidentally deleted all the footage. You know that feeling when you've worked on something really, really hard for like a class or something, and then you delete it like a day before it was due? Because I was going to upload that video tomorrow, the day after I'm recording this. And yeah, and on top of that, I also lost the beginnings of this Batman repaint as well, so that's why it's a little bit late in the game, but we're gonna work with what we have. I'll repaint the other one. I was going to do it anyway, but let's just concentrate on this one. So, like always, I removed the head. I'm just gonna give you guys a brief summary. Removed the head with warm water, tugged it off, ripped it off, and took the paint off with acetone, and then I started repainting. I started out by painting the flesh color on the face, the sun-kissed peach color. Halfway across the face, I knew the rest of it was going to be covered up with that black. And then I painted a soft gray over all of the body. And then went back in with black paint for the body and did the front hooves for his gloves, the back hooves for his boots, the back part of his outfit that was black, as well as his black tail. And then you can see all the things on the head that I painted black. The mask, the mane, everything pretty much. So that was the brief version of how we got to this point. So obviously Batman's scowl is a little bit different because of his mask. So his eyes are going to be these white triangles instead of, big round colorful eyes. You really want to sketch out where it's going to go first so you can get the angles right. I tried to paint it on the first time. You can see that first repaint I did of this one. The other one is the one on my banner. This is the one I'm redoing. But I tried to do it freehand the first time. Didn't work out too well. Kept getting the angles messed up. So definitely want to keep a pencil handy to redo it. And as you can see, since it's so small, I'm going over it with a toothpick. And usually when using a toothpick, you have to pretty much blob it on. So this shouldn't take more than one coat. And by the way, the flesh tone, I believe, took about 3 coats because I didn't paint over it with white. It started out purple color, so I didn't really need to. Obviously, the black didn't take much. It only took 2 coats to get rid of the one to cover and one to get rid of the paint strokes. The gray, I think I put about 3 coats of the gray on the body. So here we are going to start painting Batman's logo. I'm going for an older style logo within the yellow circle. So with that light yellow color, I am sketching an oval shaped on his chest. Now this honestly took me a while to draw. You want to try and make the oval as symmetrical as possible, but also make it big enough that you can feel confident sketching in that logo in later, the bat logo. I don't know if I show it on the original figure. You might be able to see it a little bit in the banner. Honestly, the one I did first on the original figure, the logo turned out a lot better than this one. But this one you can still tell what it is, so I'm still happy with it. But you definitely want to try and take your time and make everything as readable as possible. Once the yellow oval is dry, you want to go ahead with another toothpick and start on the bat signal. And you can see that or bat logo rather. You can see I'm using my other one as reference. Now, notice what I'm doing here, guys. It's something that I try to remember to do as often as I can. I don't always do it, though. When you're painting something symmetrical, your body automatically wants to go to the side where you're most dominant. I'm right-handed. My hand kind of wants to automatically start on the part that's on my right. But if you do the other way, if you do it the opposite, you can use the other side for reference. If I started on the right, what would be on my right on this figure, you know, what I'm doing now, my hand would be covering it up when I did it on the other side. I hope that's understandable. Because I started on my left, I was able to reference that left to the right. If I did it the other way around, my hand would be covering it up. So that's just one little helpful hint for you guys if you want to follow it. I highly suggest it. Like I said, it's something you have to get in the habit of, and a lot of times I forget to. Because I just, start. Your body just wants to automatically go with whatever way you're more dominant. Right-handed people want to start to their right, left-handed people want to start on their left, but if you want to reference what you're doing to make it as symmetrical as possible and as easy as possible, try to go on the non-dominant side first. So anyway, I'm trying to do this little by little. Obviously, the bottom of this, where the bat wings are a little bit harder because they're smaller, more curves to it. And you want to make sure that when you're done with it and you fill it in, because all this is going to be colored in with black, that it doesn't look like just one big black blob. You want to make sure that those curves are able to be seen. And that's exactly where I messed up. When I finished and I colored it in, you just really couldn't see the curves on the bottom very well. So I had to make the decision to wash off the paint. You guys are going to see what I was talking about in my Superman video about how the paint kind of smears after you wash it off. So I just took that plastic brush, dipped it in water, wiped a little bit of the water off, and started, scrubbing it off or brushing it off, and then I wiped it down with a paper towel. That'll get the most of it off. It'll get it off enough that you can paint over it. But you can see the water definitely made the paint run, so try to be a little bit more careful than I am. I did have to go back over that and paint, the gray parts gray again. Had to go back over and make the oval a little bit bigger. But it was worth it. It came out a lot better in the end. It's just a bigger headache. And here you can see the completed version. I decided not to film that part just so I could concentrate a little bit more on the logo. But like I said, the other one turned out a little bit better, but I'm still very satisfied with how that turned out. You can definitely tell it's a Batman signal. Why do I keep saying signal? Logo. Anyway, now it's time to start on the utility belt. Now, I'm making this one similar to, well, I was about to say similar to how I made the last one. Y'all ain't seen that yet. I deleted it. Never mind. But I'm starting with a square in the middle. Batman's utility belt has been shown a couple different ways. I remember it being, just a bunch of squares linked together. So that's more or less how I'm going to do it. I'm going to put a little bit more space in between the squares, however, just to make them a bit more readable. So I'm outlining it with white paint because it's going to be gold paint going over these dark colors. So you definitely want to put a primer coat of white down first. And again, I'm using a toothpick. These small figures, y'all, if you put a lot of detail in, you're going to be using them toothpicks a lot. a lot. But it'll take you a lot of time. You can tell I'm taking forever on that one little square. But it really will be worth it in the end. So, you really have to be patient with it. And also try, again, to be as symmetrical as possible. It's harder when you're working on opposite sides of a figure. You can't really reference it. But try to make enough room that you can put equal amount of squares on both sides. So here I busted out that angled brush, again one of the smallest brushes that I have, if not the smallest brush I have, and started painting on the gold. Metallic paint is very, very sheer, especially gold. It just is. No matter what brand you get, nearly all of it is very, very sheer. So it's going to take you a little bit to paint it You want to try and get right up to that white edge. You don't want any of the white showing. You also don't want to go too far over, or else it'll just look sloppy. You can go over with the other colors and correct it, obviously, but you just want to take your time and go as slow as possible. You can, again, do this with a toothpick, like I put on the white. I could have used a toothpick. Would have taken a lot longer, and that's why I switched to the brush, just to save a little bit of time. And it turned out good in the end anyway, so it doesn't really matter. As long as you're slow enough and take your time, you can do it with a brush. And now we are busting out that moldable glue called Suguru. This is the full packet it comes in. It comes in a pack of 8. You can get it in packs of 3, or I think just one by itself if you wanted to just get one and test it out. I get mine on Amazon, by the way. I'm not sure if it does come in singles. I want to say it does, but it's not that expensive. So if you guys want to try it out for yourselves, I recommend it. There's highs and lows to it. There are highs and lows to it. But basically, I got this moldable rubber, and I did pretty much the same thing with Superman. I got some and sculpted it into the rough shape of Batman's cape and put it on the figure. Now, with this one, I tried to make it a little bit longer than the one I put on Superman, so I could go through later and put those edges at the very bottom of it that Batman has, those very sharp, jagged edges. And this stuff is super easy to carve. I filmed myself carving it this time, by a miracle. I actually remembered to film that part this time. So, yeah. You will be seeing that. And I also... Now, here's where I think I may have messed up a little bit. Like I said, I think the first one turned out a little bit better. And here's one of the main reasons why. So, obviously, one of Batman's characteristics are those super sharp, pointed... And I know it's going out of frame, guys. Sorry. Pointed ears on his mask. So I try to extend those ears out with the Suguru to make them a bit more pointy, a bit more dramatic. But these I made way too dramatic. They're way too long. They come out way too long. I think I've been thinking about going ahead and doing the entire Bat family. I've done Robin in the past. I'll go ahead and do a video for him eventually. But if I ever do a Bat character again, like Batgirl or Batwoman, I think I might try to remove the ears completely and resculpt them pointing straight up, because I think that would look a lot better. But here you can see me attaching some Suguru to the ears, shaping it roughly, and then trying to blend it as best I could to the actual figure. I later come in with a eraser, actually, from the end of my pencil to carve out the shape of the ear, the inner ear, just make it a bit longer. Obviously, the ear is already curved in a little bit on the actual figure, so I just extended it up to the part where I molded it. And after everything has been molded and you think it's good, it's time to move on to the next step, which... Honestly, guys, by the end of it, I wasn't all that sure if it was the right move or not. You can see me still trying to mold this thing to get it the perfect height, but yeah, again, I failed at that. So if you guys watched my Wonder Woman repaint of these figures, the Suguru was still wet. That's why I'm trying to do this without putting the figure down so the ears didn't bend. Get that open. But you saw where the Suguru was at the wrong temperature. It was very sticky, so I had to use baking powder to make it unstick to itself, and I noticed that it made the paint go on a lot better. This is rubber, guys. It's air-dry rubber, so it does not take paint very well. And since it took so well with the baking powder, I decided to try putting it on the Suguru parts here. So I'm just taking some on my fingers and lightly dusting it on. You'll see towards the end, it did good, but at the same time not. I'm just gonna have to keep experimenting till I find something that will actually keep the paint on there with as few coats as possible. This one, it worked, but not as well as I would like. Again, you'll see that at the end of the video. So here you can see I'm starting to paint the cape black. I did dust off the excess powder before I did this, and I forgot to say it in this video, but this stuff does take 24 hours to set, so this is the next day, pretty much. It doesn't matter how small the figure or whatever you're sculpting is, it really does need to set out for a good at least 20 hours, if not 24. This stuff takes forever to cure, but it is worth it in the end. Like I said, you don't have to bother about gluing it. It's easy to carve and shape afterwards. But yeah, that is one of the drawbacks, that it takes forever and then the painting can be challenging. But this Suguru does come in white, black, and the 3 primary colors, so technically you could get those and mix your own color so you wouldn't have to worry about paint. To me, I just don't really like doing that. I'd rather just paint it all, so I'm still have to come up with a new, or at least a better solution for this. But you can see it's taking the paint really, really well. I only had to put about 2 coats on it, 3 on some of the edges, but it was super easy to paint after this. Super easy with the baking powder. Okay guys, here's the proof that isn't, a lethal weapon that's in that case labeled knife. It's actually just an X-Acto knife. And it was after I put the first layer of paint on that I realized, yeah, I probably should have carved it first. Doesn't really matter, but you can see me slicing away really easy. With an X-Acto knife or, anything sharp, it's really easy to make those really sharp, straight lines on this stuff after it's cured. Obviously, you can't mold it anymore or shape it anymore, really, but you can carve it away to make the perfect shape. And it's just super easy. That stuff just falls away after you've done it. And here you can see the finished project with that. I will say that, honestly, this cape turned out a lot better than the last one did. It dried a lot straighter. The other one's a little bit frumpy. So that is the one thing on this figure that did turn out a lot better than the other one. And then I just went ahead and started painting it again. After the cape and the ears are done, and I'm sorry about the different angle, I know it's more like straight up now. I was having a little bit of trouble with my tripod. This custom was just one weird thing after another happening here. So here you can see I'm trying to reconnect the head back to the body, and I always test it out first and see how well it would line up doing that, and I realized it wasn't going to connect the way it is now. So I took the gloves off. I used those gloves to protect my hands from the super glue in case it gets on my skin. But sometimes when you pull these heads apart, how should I say this? It morphs the neck peg. Some places are a little bit lower, some places are a little bit higher, and after they separate and it rehardens after it cools because you're heating it up, it'll stay that way. And that makes the head become uneven and it doesn't have a solid ground to attach to. So what I do, I take a small piece of air dry clay and mush it on the neck and put the head back on it. That way it's making a complete mold pretty much of it. And you can see it there in the head. It transferred to the head. It doesn't really matter if it stays in the neck or not, but it will give you a very solid ground to glue it afterwards. After the air dry clay is dried, then you can go back in with that super glue and re-glue it or reattach it. I use the Gorilla Glue when doing this. It is a lot stronger, and that's something you're definitely going to need with any type of project where you pretty much saw something in half. With this stuff, it is extremely strong, and that's really good when you're using that air dry clay on the neck as well, because you guys have heard me in the other 2 videos, if you go ahead and paint the neck, like if I went ahead and paint the neck the flesh color and the one on the body the gray color, I would have been gluing the paint on the paint and not the figure on the figure, the plastic on the plastic. And if you drop it that way, it breaks a lot easier. And unfortunately with this clay in the neck, we have the same problem. But this Gorilla Glue is probably the strongest that you can find, and it'll definitely support it the best it can. I held it on here for a while, and then I took a toothpick and put some more on that, and then went around the neck again just to seal it completely, just to make sure it was 100% on that body. Real quick, y'all, I didn't show it this time, or at least, no, I didn't. But after the head was finally attached, I did look to see if there was any unpainted areas on the neck. Sometimes you'll see a small gap there where it's not painted. Again, you want to attach the head first to see when that is, so you're not gluing the paint on the paint. But after that glue is dried, you need to get your matte varnish. That's not medicine, it's matte varnish, Mod Podge matte varnish, to put a protective layer on it. Now, here's where I said that you might see something bad with the baking soda. The cape took this stuff easy. No problem at all brushing it on the cape. One of the ears, however, the very tip, some of the paint brushed off of it. I don't know if it was something, if I just didn't cover it there all the way like I did the other spots, or if it was the baking powder. I don't know. I might try to use the baking powder technique on the next one just to see. But I did see that the paint did scrape off a little bit easier when it bumped against something else, before this step. And I have noticed with all my past customs that with the Suguru, if you do drop it, the Suguru part does have a better chance of chipping even with the varnish. So I've been thinking about trying to think of new ways to do it. I have a couple in mind, so stay tuned. You're in for some trial and error here. But yeah, that's pretty much what you have to do when you're doing this stuff, especially when you're pretty new at it still and you're evolving, using different materials all the time. I've been doing this for over a year now, but I'm still adding new materials, new techniques, and I'm just, learning as I go along, and that's what you have to do. I don't even know if you can see it on here when I start doing the tip of the ear, but like I said, it's just going to take some experimenting. Yeah, you guys can kind of see it, just barely, that little white dot. You can probably see it when you're on full screen. Mine's just in the corner of the video right now. But yeah, I'm just going to have to figure out a way to deal with that. I did repaint it, obviously, after this coat of varnish dried, and I put 2 more coats on it after this. And here is the completed Batman custom. Again, sorry for the lack of footage towards the beginning of the video. I hope you guys understand. And the extra video is coming up pretty soon. I have it all filmed. I just need to edit it and do the voiceover for it. Part of you guys probably know it's already Rogue, so please look forward to that. I hope you guys really enjoy this video. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.